Welcome to another gentle journey through the world of Pokemon. Tonight we're going to explore the fascinating details surrounding Pokemon Red, the game that started a global phenomenon and changed the landscape of gaming forever. So settle in, get comfortable, and let's drift through the hidden corners of Kanto together. Pokemon Red wasn't actually the first Pokemon game released in Japan. On February 27, 1996, Japanese players received Pocket Monsters Red and Pocket Monsters Green as the original pair of games. Red featured Charizard on its cover, while Green showcased Venusaur. These two games were developed over the course of 6 years, making them among the longest development cycles in Nintendo's history at that time. The development began in 1990, and the small team at Game Freak poured everything they had into bringing Satoshi Tajiri's vision to life. The game was actually completed in October of 1995, but its release was delayed until February of the following year because the derivative products, the trading cards, and merchandise weren't ready for sale yet. The international version that Western audiences know as Pokemon Red was based not on the original Japanese Red, but on a later release called Pocket Monsters Blue. This third version came out in Japan in October of 1996 as a mail order exclusive through Koro Comic Magazine before getting a general retail release in 1999. Blue featured updated graphics, improved sprites, and fixes for numerous glitches that had been discovered in the original red and green versions. When Nintendo localized the games for North America, they took the updated visuals and bug fixes from Japanese Blue, but kept the wild Pokemon encounters and version exclusive creatures from the original Red and Green. This created an interesting hybrid that Western players experienced as Pokemon Red and Blue. Before we journey deeper into the secrets of Kanto tonight, I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment and let me know which part of the world you're tuning in from, and if these quiet explorations of Pokemon history help you unwind, consider subscribing so we can share more peaceful discoveries together. The development of Pokemon Red was marked by chaos and near disaster. During the creation of the game, all three original programmers quit simultaneously, leaving the project in a precarious position. Designer Shigeki Morimoto, who had never programmed before, had to teach himself coding from scratch to keep the project alive. This explains why Generation 1 contains so many glitches and programming oddities. The missing no glitch, the infinite item duplication exploit, and numerous other bugs exist because the game was essentially programmed by someone learning as they went. In a 1996 interview published in a Pokédex guidebook, Satoshi Tajiri called Pokémon the longest game to debug of any Nintendo game ever sold. The amateur programming combined with the game's complexity meant that testing took an extraordinarily long time. Junichi Masuda, who worked as both composer and programmer on Pokemon Red, remembered the physical toll of development. His computers constantly overheated and broke down during the 6 year development cycle. He went through 4 different computers by the time the game was finished, constantly working to repair them so development could continue. The Game Boy's limited hardware pushed these machines to their absolute limits. Every byte of data mattered. Every sprite had to be carefully optimized, and the team worked within constraints that would seem impossible by modern standards. The battle system that defines Pokemon almost didn't exist at all. Shigeki Morimoto admitted in interviews that he didn't find the idea of battles very interesting initially and thought they would be a pain to program. Early prototypes of Pokemon featured auto-watched battles where players had no input, simply observing their creatures fight. Nintendo's playtesting surveys called this system boring, and Nintendo insisted that Morimoto add player-controlled battles. This fundamental feature of Pokemon, the strategic turn-based combat that millions love, was added close to the game's deadline because the original designer didn't think it was necessary. The concept of trading Pokemon, which became the series' signature social feature, originated from an unexpected source. Satoshi Tajiri was inspired by Dragon Quest II's Madcap item, which had a 1 in 128 chance of dropping from enemies. Tajiri's friend Ken Sugimori had two of these rare items, while Tajiri, despite days of trying, had none. Tajiri thought to himself, since his friend has two, why can't he give one away? This frustration with Dragon Quest's lack of item trading became the foundation for Pokemon's entire philosophy of connection and exchange between players. The Game Boy's link cable, which had existed before Pokemon, finally had a killer application that made it essential rather than optional. Shigeru Miyamoto's contributions to Pokémon Red saved the game from being drastically smaller. Originally, Game Freak could only fit about 30 Pokémon in the game's limited memory. The team was prepared to cut their roster down to this tiny number to implement the nickname system that let players name their creatures. At the last minute, Miyamoto gifted the team 4 times more RAM, allowing them to jump from 30 Pokemon to the final count of 151. Without this intervention, Pokemon Red would have been a fraction of the game players know today. Miyamoto also suggested splitting the game into multiple color-coded versions. The original plan called for 7 versions in all the colors of the rainbow, but they settled on just 2, red and green, because of their association with Mario and Luigi. The gameplay mechanics players take for granted emerged from technical limitations. Pokemon can only learn 4 moves specifically because of the Game Boy's small screen size. Tajiri explained in a 1997 interview that while they could theoretically let Pokemon memorize 100 moves, those moves couldn't fit on the Game Boy screen all at once, requiring endless scrolling. He wanted strategic move choice rather than unlimited options, turning a technical limitation into a gameplay feature. The over-the-shoulder perspective, showing your Pokemon's backside, was an intentional design choice. Ken Sugimori explained that not being able to see your Pokemon's face actually stimulates the imagination more and makes you feel closer to them, like you want to protect them. This perspective required twice as many graphics compared to front-facing sprites, but Sugimori felt the emotional connection was worth the extra work. Let's talk about what makes Pokemon Red unique compared to its counterpart, Pokemon Blue. 11. Pokemon are exclusive to Red version. Players can catch Akins and its evolution Arbok, the poison snake Pokemon that coils around its prey. Oddish, Gloom, and Vileplume represent the grass and poison type line, with Vileplume's massive flower releasing toxic pollen. Mankey and Primeape give Red version exclusive access to fighting types early in the game, with Primeape's rage-filled battling style. Growlithe and Arcanine provide fire-type coverage, with the legendary Arcanine praised in Pokemon lore as incredibly fast and loyal. Scyther, the mantis Pokemon with razor-sharp scythes for arms, can only be caught in red. And Electabuzz, the electric type that generates power between its horns, rounds out Red's exclusive roster. These version exclusives weren't random selections. Game Freak carefully balanced the exclusives so that each version had roughly equivalent value. For every Pokemon exclusive to Red, Blue had a counterpart of similar strength and utility. Blue version players could catch Sandshrew and Sandslash, the ground types that curl into balls. Vulpix and Ninetales provided Blue's fire-type option, with Ninetales' mystical Ninetales said to grant it a 1,000-year lifespan. Meowth and Persian, the cat Pokemon associated with wealth and coins, were Blue exclusives. Bellsprout, Weepinbell, and Victreebel formed Blue's grass and poison line, with Victreebel's pitcher plant design swallowing prey whole. Magmar, Electabuzz's fire-type counterpart, could only be found in Blue, and Pinsir, the stag beetle Pokemon with powerful pincers, completed Blue's exclusive roster. Now here's something many players might find interesting as they settle in tonight. If you're enjoying this peaceful exploration of Pokemon Red's secrets and want more gentle journeys through gaming history, make sure you're subscribed. These quiet, deep dives are here whenever you need them. The Celadon Game Corner offered different Pokemon prizes depending on your version. In Red, you could purchase Abra for 180 coins, though Blue version sold the same psychic type for just 120 coins. Clefairy cost 500 coins in Red, but 750 in Blue. The exclusive prizes created the biggest price differences. Red version's Dratini cost 2,800 coins, while Blue's version required 4,600 coins. Scyther in Red ran 5,500 coins, while Pinsir in Blue only cost 2,500. The most expensive prize, Porygon, cost 9,999 coins in Red, but only 6,500 in Blue. These price differences reflected the levels at which the Pokemon were offered, with lower levels costing less and higher levels demanding more coins. The visual differences between Red and Blue extended beyond just the Pokemon available. When played on a Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, or Game Boy Player, each version used different color palettes. Pokemon Red displayed with green sprites on a red overworld background. Blue featured red sprites on a blue overworld. These color schemes created subtly different atmospheres for each version. The games even had different opening sequences before the title screen. In Red, the battle shown features Gengar fighting against Nidorino. Blue's opening shows Gengar facing off against Jigglypuff instead. These small touches gave each version its own identity despite being essentially the same game with different Pokemon encounters. The internal structure of Pokemon Red reveals fascinating technical decisions. The game uses hexadecimal numbering for internal data, with each Pokemon, move, and item assigned a specific hex value. Interestingly, the Pokemon aren't stored in Pokedex order internally. Raiden, despite being number 112 in the Pokedex, is actually the first Pokemon in the game's internal index. This wasn't random. Raiden was the first Pokemon ever designed by the development team. Its internal position as number one reflects its historical significance. Mew, the legendary 151st Pokemon, was added to the game after debugging was complete, squeezed into leftover memory space. Nintendo considered this risky since adding data after testing meant any new bugs would be much harder to fix without the debugging tools. The story of Mew's distribution has become legendary. After people discovered Mew's existence through glitches, Nintendo partnered with CoroCoro Comic to hold a contest distributing Mew to just 20 players. 78,000 players entered, and the 20 winners had to mail in their game cartridges to receive Mew. This single event caused Pokemon's sales to explode. The monthly sales figures began to equal weekly sales, then grew 3 or 4 times larger. Between Pokemon Red, the Japan exclusive green, and blue versions, the original games sold over 20 million copies worldwide. Let's drift into some of the stranger aspects of Pokemon Red's programming. The game contains unused debug functions that remain in the final code. At ROM offset 01:4DA6, there's a debug battle function that creates infinite encounters against level 20 Raiden. In these debug battles, all moves function identically to Pound, and you must nickname the Raiden before each encounter. This forgotten testing feature sits dormant in every copy of Pokemon Red, inaccessible without memory manipulation, but present nonetheless. The debug team data varies between versions, with unused default names appearing in the code. The Japanese versions reference developers Tsunekazu Ishihara and possibly Wataru Yamaguchi, while international versions hide references to Nintendo and Sony as rival companies. In interviews, Tsunekazu Ishihara revealed that his favorite Pokemon is Executor specifically because he used it extensively while debugging the game. This explains why the debug team includes a level 90 Executor, the exoskeleton of a testing process that shaped the final product. These small human touches, scattered throughout the code, remind us that real people with preferences and personalities created this game under intense pressure and impossible deadlines. The trading system in Pokemon Red includes subtle quirks that most players never notice. When you trade Pokemon between two cartridges, the games save the original trainer's name and ID number. If you trade a Pokemon and then receive it back later, it remembers you as its original owner. The games can trade with Japanese versions of Red, Green, Blue, and Yellow, and they can also connect to Gold, Silver, and Crystal through the time capsule feature. However, Pokemon Red is completely incompatible with games from Generation 3 onward. The data structures changed so drastically that there's no way to transfer Pokemon forward from these original games to the Game Boy Advance titles. An interesting technical limitation affects international trading. A Japanese Pokemon Red cannot connect with a non Japanese version without causing corruption. The games can't automatically translate Pokemon data from Japanese to other languages because neither version fully encodes both kana and the Latin alphabet. Each version only fully encodes one writing system and partially encodes the other. This means Japanese and international games speak incompatible languages at a fundamental level. Trading between different language versions of international games works fine, but the Japanese versions exist in their own isolated ecosystem. The glitches in Pokemon Red have become as famous as the game itself. Missing No, perhaps the most famous glitch in gaming history, appears due to a specific sequence of actions. When you talk to the old man in Viridian City, who demonstrates catching Pokemon, the game temporarily changes your player name to Old Man for the cutscene. To do this, it stores your actual name in an unused portion of memory, specifically the area where wild Pokemon encounter data is normally kept. Usually, this doesn't matter because entering a new area overwrites that data with proper encounter information. But Cinnabar Island's eastern coast has a programming quirk. It's coded as a place where wild Pokemon can appear, but it has no encounter data defined. When you surf along Cinnabar's coast after watching the old man's demonstration, the game looks for encounter data and finds your player name instead. The game interprets the letters of your name as Pokemon species and levels. Since there are only 151 defined Pokemon, but the game allocates memory for 256 possible species, those undefined slots produce Missing No and other glitch Pokemon. The name Missing No stands for missing number, referring to these unused slot numbers. The glitch appears as scrambled pixels in the shape of two adjacent rectangles, a visual representation of corrupted data trying to display as a Pokemon sprite. Missing No became famous not just for its existence, but for its useful side effect. Encountering Missing No causes the sixth item in your bag to duplicate, increasing its quantity by 128. This lets players infinitely duplicate rare items like Master Balls, rare candies, and nuggets. The glitch is relatively safe in English Red and Blue. Despite Nintendo's May 1999 warning in Nintendo Power that encountering Missing No could easily erase your game file or disrupt your graphics, the actual risks are minimal. It can scramble your Hall of Fame data with glitch graphics and sound effects, but it rarely causes permanent save file damage. Other versions of the game, particularly Japanese Red and Green, have more dangerous variants of similar glitches. The Missing No glitch works slightly differently depending on your player name. The third, fifth, seventh, ninth, and 11th characters of your name determine which Pokemon appear. If you use preset names like Red or Ash, the encounter patterns are different than if you enter a custom name. Preset names are stored sequentially in game data with end of name markers between them, while custom names are followed by zeros. This creates different encounter patterns, with preset names often generating the glitch Pokemon M00 at level 0 due to those trailing null characters. Players discovered they could manipulate their names to encounter specific high level Pokemon, though catching the legendary birds through this method isn't possible. Mewtwo can be encountered through careful name manipulation, appearing at extremely high levels on Cinnabar's coast. The 2020 Pokemon Blue source code leak revealed that the 39 regular missing no slots correspond to deleted Pokemon from earlier in development. Shigeki Morimoto told players at the 2010 World Championships that Game Freak originally put in 190 Pokemon for the first generation. They decided to save the designs that didn't make the cut for later generations. The missing no slots, with their leftover cry sounds and partial data, are archaeological remnants of creatures that never made it to release. Some missing no variants have unique sound effects, hints that fully designed Pokemon once occupied those index numbers before being cut for time, space, or design reasons. The Old Man glitch wasn't the only way strange Pokemon encounters could occur in Red version. Trading or battling in the Cable Club overwrites wild Pokemon data with your opponent's name. Using the poison method of the Cable Club escape glitch, you could escape from the Cable Club while keeping 100% grass Pokemon data that normally disappears after resetting. This creates even more unusual encounter patterns. The first Coast exploit, reportedly discovered, involved performing an in game trade with an NPC and then surfing the coast, resulting in 5 level 80 missing no encounters. The game interpreted the traded Pokemon's original trainer name as encounter data, producing trainer control characters followed by end name markers. In the international versions of Red and Blue, a localization oversight has been changed. Which tile determines if a battle can occur from the lower left to the lower right, while leaving the tile that determines the type of battle on the lower left. This mismatch enables the glitch. The Japanese versions don't have this problem because the tiles weren't changed. Cinnabar Island's coast triggers 0 wild Pokemon in Japanese red, green, and blue. Spanish and Italian versions partially fixed the glitch, making normal water encounters appear when surfing the coast. However, using glitches or cheats to walk on the East Coast rather than surf re-enables the exploit in those versions. The fix also created a new glitch exclusive to Spanish and Italian versions, where surfing on ground tiles that allow wild encounters, achieved through the surf glitch, generates invalid Pokemon encounters. Let's talk about some Pokemon that appear in Red and the interesting details surrounding them. Charizard, the fire and flying type that evolves from Charmeleon at level 36, appears on Red version's cover as the game's mascot. This powerful Pokemon can learn Fly, making it one of the few flying types capable of carrying a trainer across the region. Interestingly, Charizard shares its cry sound effect with Rhyhorn. The games only had 37 unique base sounds for all 151 creatures. These sounds were edited with different pitches and playback speeds to create distinct cries, but some Pokemon ended up with identical sounds. Ditto and Poliwag share the same cry as well, while Omanite and Machop, or Drowsy, Hypno, and Jinx have nearly identical cries, with only slight pitch variations. Pikachu, which would become the franchise's mascot through the anime, plays a less central role in Red version than it would in Yellow. You can catch Pikachu in Viridian Forest early in the game, but it's just one of many available Pokemon. The design of Pikachu has an interesting origin story. Atsuko Nishida originally designed Pikachu based on Daifuku, a Japanese rice cake dessert. She later changed the design to be based on a squirrel because she was obsessed with squirrels at the time. The electric cheeks were inspired by squirrels storing food in their cheeks. Satoshi Tajiri later changed the animal basis to a mouse. Originally, Pikachu had a planned third evolution called Gorochu with fangs and horns resembling a devil. This evolution was scrapped for game balance reasons, existing only in concept art and developers' memories. The three starter Pokemon, Bulbasaur, Charmander, and Squirtle, establish different difficulty curves for the beginning of the game. Bulbasaur, the grass and poison type, has a type advantage against the first two gyms, Brock's rock types and Misty's water types. This makes it the easiest starter for new players. Squirtle, the water type, has an advantage against Brock, but struggles against Misty and the third gym leader, Lieutenant Surge. Charmander, the fire type, faces the hardest early game, weak against both Brock and Misty. Choosing Charmander creates a more challenging experience, but rewards players with Charizard's power later. These three choices have spawned decades of debate about which starter is best, with the answer depending entirely on whether you value early game ease or late game power. The Kanto region's layout was carefully designed around the Game Boy's limited memory. Cities and towns are named after colors in Japanese, a theme that survived translation. Palette Town, where you begin, references a painter's color palette. Viridian City is named after a bluish-green pigment. Pewter City takes its name from a gray alloy. Cerulean City refers to a deep blue color. Vermilion City is named after a brilliant red pigment. Lavender Town gets its name from the pale purple flower. Celadon City references a pale green glaze on ceramics. Fuchsia City is named after a vivid purplish red color, and Saffron City takes its name from the yellow-orange spice. Even Indigo Plateau, where the Elite Four wait, follows this color naming convention. This thematic consistency creates a sense of coherence across the region. The Sylph Company building in Saffron City is the largest dungeon in Pokémon Red, with 11 floors connected by a teleportation puzzle. Team Rocket has taken over the building, and you must navigate through trainers and warp tiles to reach Giovanni on the 11th floor. The Master Ball, the game's ultimate Pokeball that catches any Pokemon without fail, is found here as a reward for defeating Giovanni. This single item becomes crucial for catching Mewtwo later. The teleportation puzzles can be confusing on a first playthrough, but the building's layout follows a logical pattern once you understand the system. Each warp tile has a specific destination, and mapping out these connections reveals the intended path. The Safari Zone north of Fuchsia City introduced a completely different catching mechanic. Instead of battling Pokemon to weaken them, you throw bait or rocks and then attempt captures. Bait makes Pokemon less likely to flee, but harder to catch. Rocks make Pokemon easier to catch, but more likely to run away. You have 500 steps and 30 Safari Balls to catch as many Pokemon as possible. The zone contains several Pokemon unavailable elsewhere, making it essential for completing the Pokédex. Rare items like the Gold Teeth, needed to teach Surf, and TM40, which contains Skull Bash, are hidden in the tall grass. An unused hidden item, a nugget, exists off the map boundaries at coordinates 10, 1. The item finder will detect it at the Safari Zone entrance, but it's literally impossible to obtain without glitches. This suggests the Safari Zone entrance map was changed during development without removing the hidden item data. Pokemon Tower in Lavender Town creates the game's most unsettling atmosphere. The theme music, with its high pitched melody and discordant harmony, has spawned creepypasta stories about causing headaches or worse in young players. These stories are fictional, but the music genuinely creates an eerie mood. The tower is filled with ghost type Pokemon that can't be identified without the Sylph scope. One ghost, a Marowak, blocks your path on the second floor. This Marowak is the ghost of a mother Pokemon killed by Team Rocket while protecting her Cubone child. It's one of the few times Pokémon Red acknowledges death directly. Satoshi Tajiri explained that Cubone exists to acknowledge that death is sad. The bone Cubone holds belonged to its deceased mother, a treasure it carries as remembrance. Most Pokemon can be put to sleep or paralyzed and avoided, but this Marowak must be encountered and its spirit laid to rest before progressing. There's an interesting glitch involving the Marowak ghost that most players never discover. If you use a Pokédoll purchased from the Celadon department store during the ghost encounter, the game treats it like a wild battle. The Pokédoll's effect of ending wild encounters works on the ghost, letting you bypass it without obtaining the Sylph scope. This means you can skip the entire Team Rocket hideout in Celadon City if you know about this trick. Pokemon Yellow later fixed this oversight, making the Pokédoll ineffective against the Marowak. But in Red and Blue, this shortcut remains, a testament to the game's rushed programming and the surprising interactions between different systems. Cerulean Cave, accessible only after becoming champion, contains the most powerful wild Pokemon in the game. The cave's layout changed between the Japanese red and green versions and the later blue version. The international red and blue use the updated blue cave layout. This dungeon is where you encounter Mewtwo, the legendary psychic type Pokemon created through genetic experiments. Mewtwo sits at level 70, the highest level wild Pokemon in the game. Its psychic type gives it an overwhelming advantage against most opponents, and its stats exceed almost every other Pokemon. Using the Master Ball from Sylph Co. guarantees capture, but many players prefer the challenge of weakening Mewtwo and catching it with Ultra Balls. The abandoned laboratory on Cinnabar Island contains journal entries detailing Mewtwo's creation and escape, providing backstory for this encounter. The gym leaders of Kanto each specialize in a single type, testing your team's versatility. Brock, the Pewter City gym leader, uses rock types. His Geodude and Onyx have high defense but low special stats, making them vulnerable to special attacks. Defeating him earns the Boulder Badge and TM34, which contains Bide. Misty, the Cerulean gym leader, specializes in water types. Her Staryu and Starmie use powerful special attacks. Victory grants the Cascade Badge and TM11 Bubble Beam. Lieutenant Surge, the Vermilion gym leader, commands electric types. His signature Pokémon, Raichu, evolved from Pikachu using a Thunderstone. Ground types make this battle trivial. Winning earns the Thunder Badge and TM24 Thunderbolt. Erica leads the Celadon Gym with grass types. Her team includes Victreebel, Tangela, and Vileplume, all vulnerable to fire and flying attacks. The Rainbow Badge and TM21 Mega Drain await victorious trainers. Koga, the Fuchsia gym leader, uses poison types and ninja techniques. His coughing, muck, and two wheezing create a toxic battlefield. The Soul Badge and TM6, which teaches Toxic, are your reward. Sabrina, the Saffron City gym leader, is the game's most powerful non-Elite Four trainer. Her psychic types, including two Alakazam and a Mr. Mime, have extremely high special stats. Ground and bug types provide your best options. The Marsh Badge and TM46 Psywave come with victory. Blaine operates the Cinnabar Island Gym with fire types. His Growlithe, Ponyta, Rapidash, and Arcanine all burn hot. Water and rock types dominate this battle. The Volcano Badge and TM38, Fire Blast, represent his defeat. Finally, Giovanni, the Viridian City gym leader, who's secretly Team Rocket's boss, uses ground types. His team features Rhyhorn, Dugtrio, Nidoqueen, Nidoking, and Raiden. Water and grass types provide advantages. This is the eighth and final badge, the Earth Badge, along with TM27 Fisher. Discovering that Team Rocket's leader runs the last gym remains one of gaming's most memorable plot twists, even decades later. The Elite Four at Indigo Plateau represents the game's ultimate challenge. You must defeat all four trainers, plus the champion in succession, without leaving. If you lose at any point, you must start over from the first elite. Four-member Lorelei, the Ice-type specialist, leads with Dugong, Cloyster, Slowbro, Jinx, and Lapras. Her Pokémon have high special defense and powerful water and ice attacks. Electric, rock, and fighting types work well. Bruno, the fighting type specialist, follows with two Onix, Hitmonchan, Hitmonlee, and Machamp. His fighting types have high attack, but mediocre special defense. Psychic types dominate this battle. Agatha, the ghost type specialist, actually uses mostly poison types. Her team includes Gengar appearing twice, along with Golbat and Haunter appearing twice. Ground and psychic moves work best. Lance, the dragon type specialist and strongest Elite Four member, has 3 Dragonair, a Dragonite, and a Gyarados. Despite his dragon specialty, ice types aren't as dominant as you might expect because only Dragonite has a 4 times weakness. His Dragonite knows powerful moves and can be challenging without proper preparation. Finally, your rival Blue serves as champion. His team depends on which starter Pokemon he chose at the beginning of the game, but always includes his fully evolved starter, a Pidgeot, a Raiden, a Gyarados or Arcanine, and other powerful Pokemon in their 60s. Defeating Blue completes your journey and makes you the new Indigo League champion. There's unused data for an additional opponent. Professor Oak has complete battle data hidden in the game code with 3 different teams ranging from levels 66 to 70. Each team is built around a different starter evolution that neither you nor your rival chose. This suggests Oak was planned as a super boss harder than Blue's champion team, accessible only after becoming champion. The battle was programmed but never activated, leaving Oak as a peaceful researcher rather than a secret final challenge. Players have speculated for decades about why this battle was cut. Perhaps it felt wrong to fight your mentor, or maybe time constraints prevented implementing it properly. Whatever the reason, Oak's battle data remains, a ghost of content that almost was. The translation from Japanese to English created some interesting quirks. The man who trades you an electrode on Cinnabar Island claims the Raichu he received went and evolved. Since Raichu doesn't evolve, this makes no sense. In the Japanese Blue version, this trade makes sense because you trade away a Kadabra, which does evolve through trading, for a Graveler. The International Red and Blue use the script from Japanese Blue, but the trades from Japanese Red and Green, creating this contradiction. Several in-game trades suffer from similar translation mismatches, where the dialogue refers to trades that don't match what actually happens in the international versions. Text Easter eggs hide throughout the game. In Saffron City's Copycat's bedroom, examining the game console reveals different text depending on your version and language. Most versions mention a game with Mario wearing a bucket on his head, referencing Mario and Wario, another Game Freak title. The German version mentions Mario, but not the bucket. The French version describes a plumber without naming him. These subtle references connect Pokémon Red to Game Freak's other work. The SS Anne's Japanese name is Saint Anne, the same name as the computer that created Pulseman, yet another Game Freak game. These connections remind players that Game Freak had a history before Pokémon, even if Pokémon would become their defining work. Default names for the player character and rival offer interesting insights. In the Japanese version, default names include Satoshi and Shigeru, named after Satoshi Tajiri and Shigeru Miyamoto. The international versions change these to Red and Blue for the player and Ash and Gary for the rival, referencing the animated series that was developed alongside the games. In the international code, unused debug names appear, Nintendo and Sony for the player and rival respectively. These reference Nintendo and Sony, considered rivals in the console market. It's unclear whether translator Nob Ogasawara, also known as Doug Dinsdale, introduced these names or if the original developers included them. Pokémon Red's soundtrack deserves recognition for accomplishing so much with limited audio hardware. Junichi Masuda composed the entire score using the Game Boy's 4 audio channels. The Lavender Town theme uses high pitched melodies that create unsettling dissonance. The bicycle theme is upbeat and energetic, encouraging exploration. The battle themes differ between wild Pokemon, trainers, gym leaders, and the Elite Four, ramping up intensity for more important fights. The Viridian Forest music creates a sense of wonder as you encounter your first densely populated area with wild Pokemon. Each route has distinct music that creates atmosphere and location identity. The title screen theme has become iconic, instantly recognizable even decades later. Masuda's compositional skill shines through technical limitations, creating a soundtrack that enhances the adventure rather than feeling constrained by hardware. The TM and HM system allows Pokemon to learn moves outside their natural level up move pool. TMs, technical machines, can only be used once before disappearing. HMs, hidden machines, can be used infinitely and teach moves needed for navigation like cut, fly, and surf. This creates interesting decisions about which Pokemon should learn HM moves. Many players designate an HM slave, a Pokemon that learns multiple HMs but isn't used for serious battles. Others integrate HMs into their main team, accepting that some move slots will be taken by utility moves rather than optimal combat options. Fly and Surf are powerful enough to justify using in battle, while Cut, Strength, and Flash are generally weaker. The HM system encourages players to carry diverse team compositions rather than focusing solely on combat optimization. Pokemon types in Red version follow the original 18 type system. Certain type combinations create interesting strengths and weaknesses. The Psychic type is notoriously overpowered in Generation 1, with few weaknesses and resistances against fighting and poison types. Bug type moves are weak, and bug Pokemon have poor stats, making the type's theoretical advantage against psychic types mostly irrelevant in practice. Dragon types only include the Dratini line, making Dragon the rarest type. Ghost types only include the Ghastly line, and their type advantages don't work properly due to programming errors. Ghost moves should be super effective against psychic types, but a coding mistake makes psychic immune to ghost moves instead. The special stat in Generation 1 combines what later generations split into special attack and special defense. This means Pokemon like Chansey, with absurdly high special stats, have excellent special attack despite their defensive nature. It also means physical walls like Golem have terrible special defense because their special stat is low. This system was changed in Generation 2, splitting special into 2 separate stats and rebalancing many Pokemon. Some Pokemon benefited greatly from this change, while others lost effectiveness. fundamentally shifting the competitive metagame. Status conditions add strategic depth to battles, poison damages. Pokemon each turn, with regular poison dealing fixed damage, while toxic poison increases damage over time. Burn halves attack power and deals damage each turn, devastating physical attackers. Paralysis reduces speed and has a chance to prevent actions entirely. Sleep prevents all actions for 1 to 7 turns, with no way to wake up faster in Generation 1. Freeze prevents all actions indefinitely, with no self thaw chance, making it the most devastating status. Confusion isn't technically a status condition, but causes Pokemon to hurt themselves instead of attacking. Status strategy can turn difficult battles into manageable ones, but the computer controlled enemies also use status moves, creating battles where proper preparation and item usage matter as much as raw stats. The numerical stats determine battle performance. HP represents hit points, determining how much damage a Pokemon can take. Attack determines physical move damage. Defense reduces physical move damage taken. Special determines both special move damage and special move resistance. Speed determines turn order, with faster Pokemon acting first. Stats are calculated from base stats, individual values called IVs, and stat experience called EVs in later generations. Training against specific Pokemon types increases stat experience in corresponding stats, letting dedicated players maximize their team's potential through targeted training. Move types introduce additional strategic layers. Every move has a type that interacts with the target's types. Water moves hit fire and rock types for double damage, but deal half damage to water, grass, and dragon types. Fire moves are super effective against grass, ice, and bug types, but weak against fire, water, rock, and dragon types. The famous rock, paper, scissors core of grass, water, and fire types creates the game's fundamental Popo strategic triangle. Beyond this, the 18 types create a complex web of interactions. Learning these type relationships transforms Pokemon from a simple game into a strategic puzzle where team composition and move selection determine victory. Critical hits introduce randomness that can swing battles dramatically. Every move has a small chance to deal double damage, ignoring stat modifiers and the target's defense boosts. Critical hit rate is based on the attacker's base speed stat, with faster Pokemon landing critical hits more often. Certain moves like Slash and Razor Leaf have increased critical hit ratios, making them stronger than their base power suggests. High critical hit ratio moves combined with fast Pokemon create strategies focused on fishing for critical hits. The randomness can be frustrating when the computer lands critical hits against you, but it also creates dramatic moments where a critical hit turns a losing battle into victory. Accuracy and evasion create another layer of strategy. Moves have accuracy ratings, with most damaging moves having between 85 and 100% accuracy. Status moves often have lower accuracy to balance their effects. Moves like agility increase your speed, while moves like Double Team increase evasion, making you harder to hit. Sand Attack and Smokescreen lower the opponent's accuracy, making their moves more likely to miss. Moves that never miss, like Swift, bypass accuracy checks entirely. The one hit knockout moves Fissure, Horn Drill, and Guillotine have only 30% accuracy, but instantly knock out opponents if they connect, creating high risk, high reward options. Stat modifications add depth to longer battles. Moves like Swords Dance double your attack, while moves like Amnesia double your special. Growl and Tail Whip lower the opponent's attack and defense. These modifications stack, with multiple uses increasing the effect. At maximum modifiers, stats can be quadrupled or reduced to one quarter their original value. The AI doesn't use stat modifications effectively, giving human players an advantage in long battles. Setting up with multiple stat boosts can allow a single Pokemon to sweep through entire teams. However, switching out resets all modifications, making timing crucial. Badge boosts create an interesting quirk that some consider an exploit. Each gym badge is supposed to boost certain stats by 12.5%, but a programming error causes these boosts to reset when stats are modified. The game then reapplies the boosts, but it stacks them on top of any other modifiers. This means using X items or moves like Swords Dance causes badge boosts to multiply with your other modifiers instead of adding to them. The Boulder Badge affects attack. The Thunder Badge affects speed. The Soul Badge affects defense. And the Volcano Badge affects special. These compounding boosts make stat boosting strategies even more powerful than intended. Experience and leveling determine how quickly Pokemon grow stronger. Different Pokemon have different experience curves, with some reaching level 100 quickly, while others require more total experience. Pokemon that evolve later, like Dragonite, often require more experience but have higher basis stats to compensate. Experience is gained by defeating opposing Pokemon, with higher level opponents giving more experience. Pokemon holding the Exp Share item, received from one of Professor Oak's aides, gain half the experience from battles even without participating. This allows players to level weaker Pokemon without risking them in combat. Evolution transforms Pokemon into stronger forms with different designs and improved stats. Most Pokemon evolve at specific levels, though some require items or trading. Stone evolutions use items like Firestone, Waterstone, Thunderstone, Leafstone, or Moonstone, allowing players to evolve Pokemon whenever they choose rather than waiting for specific levels. Trade evolutions require exchanging Pokemon with another player, making them impossible without a link cable in second game. This encourages the social aspects of trading, but can frustrate players without friends who own the game. Pokemon like Haunter and Kadabra are intentionally weak until evolved through trading, becoming powerhouses as Gengar and Alakazam. The Pokédex serves as both completion goal and in-game encyclopedia. Each Pokemon has a Pokédex entry describing its biology, behavior, and abilities. Some entries contradict each other or make physically impossible claims. Mag cargo is supposedly 18,000 degrees Fahrenheit, twice as hot as the surface of the sun. Alakazra supposedly has an IQ of 5,000 and can remember everything it experiences. Raiden can shatter diamonds with its horn and can withstand 2,000-degree magma. These exaggerated descriptions add flavor and personality, even if they don't make scientific sense. Collecting all 151 Pokémon requires trading between versions, catching Pokémon from the Safari Zone, evolving Pokémon through various methods, and obtaining the legendary birds and Mewtwo. Getting Mew requires attending official Nintendo events or using glitches. The legendary birds, Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres, are found in specific locations at level 50. Articuno hides in the Seafoam Islands, accessible after learning Surf and Strength. The Ice and Flying type bird requires patience to catch, with low HP needed before Ultra Balls become effective. Zapdos waits at the power plant east of Route 10, an electric and flying type with high special attack. Moltres roosts at Victory Road's deepest chamber, a fire and flying type that knows Fire Spin. These three represent the only legendary Pokémon in Red version besides Mewtwo and the event exclusive Mew. Their singular nature makes them feel special compared to later generations where legendary Pokémon became more common. The Kanto legendary birds connect to a subplot involving Team Rocket's plans at the power plant. Team Rocket appears throughout the game as antagonists stealing Pokémon and causing problems. Their presence at the power plant suggests they were after Zapdos, though this connection is never made explicit. Giovanni, Team Rocket's boss, runs the Viridian Gym while simultaneously leading a criminal organization, a shocking revelation when first discovered. After you defeat him at Silphco and again at his gym, he disbands Team Rocket and disappears. This subplot wouldn't be revisited until Gold and Silver, where Team Rocket attempts to contact Giovanni and draw him out of hiding. The Cinnabar Island Laboratory, where Mewtwo was created, contains journal entries that tell a tragic story. Scientists discovered Mew in the jungles of South America. They used its DNA to create a more powerful Pokémon, naming it Mewtwo. The genetic Pokémon proved too powerful and violent, escaping and destroying the laboratory. These journal entries provide rare, direct narrative in a game that mostly tells its story through environmental details and NPC dialogue. The manga and anime expanded on this backstory extensively, but the games present only these fragmentary details. The journal's clinical tone makes the disaster feel more real, a scientific failure with catastrophic consequences. Bill, the Pokemon storage system developer, has a house on Route 25. When you first meet him, he's accidentally fused himself with a Pokemon and needs help separating. After you save him, he gives you a ticket to the SS Anne. The storage system Bill created allows players to carry more than 6 Pokemon by storing extras in a computer network accessible from any Pokemon Center. This essential feature has a charming in-universe explanation rather than being an unexplained game mechanic. Bill's PC continues to be referenced in every subsequent Pokemon game, maintaining consistency across the franchise. Before meeting Bill, Pokemon centers have a someone's PC instead of Bill's PC, suggesting the system existed before Bill made his improvements to it. The SS Anne luxury liner hosts a cruise where trainers from around the world gather. The ship only visits Vermilion City once before sailing away forever. If you don't complete everything on the ship before making it sail away by defeating your rival, you permanently miss items and opportunities. The ship's captain is seasick and gives you HM01 cut after you help him. A gentleman offers to trade his Raichu for your Jolteon in one of the cabins. The SS Anne houses some of the toughest trainers in the early game, making it a good place to level your team. The ship's departure after your rival battle creates a sense of urgency and consequence rare in games of this era. The truck near the SS Anne became the subject of countless schoolyard rumors. After the ship departs, you can use Surf to reach a truck that's normally inaccessible. Nothing special happens when you examine it, but rumors persisted for years that you could find Mew underneath. These rumors were false, but they represent the sense of mystery and possibility that Pokemon Red created. Before widespread internet use, players relied on word of mouth and magazine articles for information. This allowed myths and legends to flourish, creating a culture of experimentation and shared discovery that defined the Pokemon Red experience for a generation. The Celadon department store is the largest shopping area in the game, offering items not available elsewhere. The rooftop vending machines sell fresh water, soda pop, and lemonade, drinks that restore HP and can be given to certain NPCs for rewards. The store sells TMs, evolution stones, and rare items like the Exp share. A hidden bedroom on the top floor contains a Pokédoll. This vast selection makes Celadon a frequent stop for trainers preparing for tough battles. The Celadon Game Corner next door provides an alternative way to obtain rare Pokemon if you have the coins, whether earned through the slot machines or purchased directly. Moves in Pokemon Red vary wildly in usefulness. Some moves like Tackle and Scratch are basic attacks that become obsolete as you find better options. Other moves like Thunderbolt, Ice Beam, and Psychic remain useful throughout the entire game due to their power and accuracy. Earthquake is considered one of the best moves, hitting hard with perfect accuracy and only missing Pokemon that are flying or digging. Hyper Beam has the highest base power of 150, but forces you to recharge the next turn, making it risky unless it finishes the opponent. Status moves like Thunder Wave and Toxic can be more valuable than damaging moves in difficult battles, shutting down opponents before they can act. The PP system limits how many times moves can be used before needing to visit a Pokemon Center. Most damaging moves have between 15 and 35 PP, while weaker moves often have more uses and powerful moves fewer. This prevents players from spamming the strongest moves endlessly and encourages diverse movesets. PP up and PP max items permanently increase a move's PP, making them valuable for moves you rely on heavily. In long battles, especially in the Elite Four Gauntlet, Managing PP becomes crucial. Running out of PP for all moves forces your Pokemon to use Struggle, a typeless move that damages the user with recoil. The fishing rod progression shows Game Freak's attention to progression design. The old rod, obtained in Vermilion City, can only catch low-level Magikarp. The good rod from Fuchsia City catches slightly better water Pokemon like Poliwag and Goldeen. The Super Rod from Route 12 pulls up the best water types, including Dratini in the Safari Zone. This three-tier system encourages players to upgrade their fishing equipment as they progress, providing access to better Pokemon while maintaining some locations where only specific rods work. Magikarp, while weak initially, evolves into the powerful Gyarados at level 20, rewarding players who invest in training the pathetic fish. Pokemon Red's battle system, while simpler than later generations, established patterns that would define the series. The 4 move limit, the type advantage system, and the PP management all originated here. Later games would add held items, abilities, physical special split, weather effects, and more, but the core remain unchanged. A player familiar with Pokemon Red could pick up any subsequent game and understand the basic mechanics immediately. This consistency across decades demonstrates the elegance of the original design. The limitations of the Game Boy forced simplicity that paradoxically created depth through careful balancing and type interactions. Perhaps we should pause here and reflect on something interesting. If you're still listening to this peaceful exploration of Pokemon Red's hidden depths, I hope it's helping you relax. There's something comforting about revisiting these old games, understanding the technical challenges and creative decisions that shaped our childhood memories. Feel free to share in the comments what your favorite part of Pokemon Red was, whether it was finally catching that elusive legendary bird or the satisfaction of defeating the Elite Four for the first time. The AI opponent behaviors follow simple patterns that players can exploit once recognized. Wild Pokemon use moves randomly, making their behavior unpredictable but not strategic. Trainer Pokemon follow slightly more complex patterns, favoring super effective moves when available but still making suboptimal choices. The Elite Four and Champion use slightly better AI, but they still fall for simple strategies like setting up stat boosts or exploiting type weaknesses. Modern Pokemon games have improved AI that switches Pokemon strategically and uses better move selection, but Pokemon Red's simple AI means smart players can punch above their level, winning battles against stronger opponents through strategy. The Pokemon Tower side quest stands out as the game's most emotionally resonant story. The tower serves as a burial ground for deceased Pokemon, with trainers visiting to pay respects. Team Rocket has invaded to steal Pokemon skulls, particularly Cubone skulls, which are valuable. The ghost of a Marowak, killed while protecting her baby Cubone from Team Rocket, haunts the tower. You must obtain the Sylph Scope to identify ghosts, then lay the Marowak's spirit to rest by acknowledging her death and freeing her to move on. This subplot introduces heavier themes than the rest of the game acknowledging that Pokemon can die and that death causes genuine grief. The somber music and gray color palette reinforce the melancholy atmosphere. Mr. Fuji, saved from Team Rocket at the top of Pokemon Tower, represents the game's moral center. He cares for orphaned Pokemon and works to help any creature in need. After you rescue him, he gives you the Pokeflute, an item that wakes sleeping Pokemon. This flute is needed to wake the Snorlax blocking Route 12 and Route 16, allowing progression. Mr. Fuji's kindness contrasts with Team Rocket's cruelty, showing different ways humans can relate to Pokemon. His house in Lavender Town becomes a sanctuary where wounded Pokemon receive care, a reminder that the world contains compassionate people working to make things better. The copycat in Saffron City has lost her favorite Pokédoll. If you give her a Pokédoll from the Celadon department store, she teaches one of your Pokemon Mimic, a move that copies the opponent's last used move. This odd girl who repeats everything you say and dresses like a Pokemon trainer represents the game's quirky sense of humor. Her house contains several references to other Nintendo games, and her bizarre behavior makes her memorable despite being a minor NPC. These personality filled side quests give Kanto character beyond its main quest to become champion. The Nugget Bridge on Route 25 earned its name from the nugget given to trainers who defeat 5 consecutive trainers on the bridge. At the end, a Team Rocket member tries to recruit you, offering to pay if you join their organization. Refusing triggers a battle, after which he runs away. This is one of several moments where you choose explicitly to oppose Team Rocket rather than being forced into conflict. The bridge battles test your team's endurance, as 5 battles in a row can deplete your resources even with level advantages. The nugget itself sells for 5,000 Pokemon dollars, making it a valuable prize for those willing to fight through the gauntlet. Pokemon Red sold over 10 million copies worldwide, making it one of the Game Boy's best-selling games ever. Combined with its companion versions, the first generation games moved over 20 million units. This commercial success transformed Nintendo's business strategy, establishing Pokemon as a tentpole franchise alongside Mario and Zelda. The games launched a multimedia empire, including an anime series, trading card game, toys, clothing, and countless other products. None of this would exist without the success of Pokemon Red and its determination to capture the childhood joy of collecting creatures and sharing them with friends. The legacy of Pokemon Red extends far beyond sales figures. It established gameplay patterns that would influence RPGs for decades. The companion version system inspired countless imitators. The trading based progression encouraged social play in single player games. The collectible creatures model proved that simple designs could create emotional attachment. Children who played Pokemon Red are now adults creating games, inspired by memories of exploring Kanto and building their perfect team. The game's impact on popular culture is immeasurable, with Pikachu becoming more recognizable worldwide than many real animals. The technical achievement of Pokemon Red becomes more impressive with context. The Game Boy had 8 kilobytes of RAM and a 4 megahertz processor. The cartridge had limited storage space. Within these constraints, Game Freak created a world with diverse locations, 151 UA creatures, hundreds of trainer battles, a complex type system, and interconnected progression. Modern mobile phones have thousands of times more computing power, yet few mobile games achieve the same sense of adventure and discovery. This demonstrates that hardware limitations don't prevent creativity when talented designers work within those constraints. The randomness in Pokémon Red's battles creates stories. Critical hits land at crucial moments, turning certain defeat into narrow victory. Status conditions fail when you need them most, or connect when all hope seems lost. Wild Pokemon break free from Pokeballs after you've thrown dozens, or get caught on the first try against all odds. This controlled randomness prevents battles from becoming purely mathematical calculations, maintaining excitement even when you understand the systems perfectly. The stories players tell about their playthroughs, the Nidoking that carried them through the Elite Four, or the Magikarp that refused to be caught, emerge from this randomness, creating unique experiences. Pokemon Red's replay value comes from different team compositions. With 151 Pokemon available and only 6 party slots, every playthrough can feel different. Some players run monotype teams, using only Pokemon of a single type. Others impose self challenges, like Nuzlockes, where fainted Pokemon are permanently boxed. Speedrunners optimize routes and strategies to complete the game as quickly as possible. Casual players experiment with favorites regardless of optimization. This flexibility lets Pokemon Red remain fresh across multiple playthroughs, with no single correct way to experience the game. The social aspect of Pokemon Red defined a generation's gaming experiences. Schoolyard trades and battles created a community that transcended the game itself. Players discussed strategies, shared rumors, and competed to complete their Pokédexes. The link cable transformed isolated single player experiences into shared adventures. This social element was intentionally designed by Satoshi Tajiri, who wanted to recreate the joy of collecting insects and showing them to friends. The trading card game and anime reinforced this community, creating multiple entry points into Pokemon culture. Even today, online communities discuss Pokemon Red with the same enthusiasm as when it first released. The bugs and glitches that escaped testing became features in players' eyes. Missing No, while technically an error, created emergent gameplay around item duplication and rare Pokemon encounters. The select button glitch allowed advanced players to manipulate memory in creative ways. These exploits didn't break the game for most players since they required specific knowledge to execute. They added a layer of depth for those willing to experiment, creating a sense that Pokemon Red contained secrets beyond the developer's intentions. Modern games often patch glitches immediately, but Pokemon Red's glitches have become part of its charm. The competitive battling scene, while less developed in Pokemon Red than in later games, established patterns that would define high level play. Players discovered that certain Pokemon, like Mewtwo, Alakazam, Tauros, Snorlax, and Chansey, dominated competitive play due to their stat distributions and move pools. The psychic type's overpowered nature made psychic type Pokemon and Pokemon with psychic moves essential. Sleep was the most powerful status condition since sleeping Pokemon couldn't act until they randomly woke up. These discoveries created a metagame above the casual play experience, where the best Pokemon and strategies emerged through trial and competition. Pokemon Red represents a specific moment in gaming history. It released near the end of the Game Boy's lifespan, pushing the aging hardware to its limits. The Game Boy Color would release just 2 years later, offering improved graphics and processing power. Yet Pokemon Red achieved something that many more advanced games couldn't. It created a world that felt alive and full of possibility despite its technical limitations. The simple graphics forced players to use their imagination, filling in details the hardware couldn't display. This collaborative storytelling between designer and player created more impactful experiences than photorealistic graphics often achieve. The music of Pokemon Red deserves special recognition for creating atmosphere within the Game Boy's audio limitations. Each town's theme establishes its character. Pallet Town's peaceful melody represents home and safety. Lavender Town's unsettling tones create dread. The bike theme encourages exploration and speed. The gym leader battle theme builds tension. These musical themes trigger powerful nostalgia in players who grew up with the game, instantly transporting them back to childhood. Junichi Masuda's compositions work within 4 audio channels, using clever arrangements to create the illusion of more complex music than the hardware should allow. The post game content in Pokemon Red is minimal by modern standards. After becoming champion, you can catch Mewtwo in Cerulean Cave and complete your Pokédex. That's essentially it. No additional story content, no extra dungeons, no legendary quests. Yet, this simplicity works in the game's favor. The goal of becoming champion feels like a genuine conclusion rather than a checkpoint before the real content. Catching all 151 Pokemon becomes a personal goal rather than a developer mandate. Players define their own post game experiences, whether through team building, competitive battling, or simply exploring areas they rushed through during the main quest. The nostalgia factor surrounding Pokemon Red can't be underestimated when discussing its impact. For many players, this was their first RPG, their first Pokemon experience, or their first Game Boy game. These first experiences create powerful memories that color how we view the game decades later. While modern Pokemon games are objectively superior in almost every technical aspect, they can't replicate the feeling of discovery that came from exploring Kanto for the first time. This nostalgia ensures Pokemon Red remains relevant and beloved despite its age, introduced to new generations through re releases like the 3DS Virtual Console versions. The relationship between Pokemon Red and the anime series creates interesting cross pollination. The games inspired the anime, which then influenced how people perceived the games. Pikachu's prominence in the show made it a fan favorite in the games, despite being relatively weak statistically. Team Rocket's personalities from the show colored how players viewed the game's generic Team Rocket grunts. The anime's version of Misty, Brock, and Lieutenant Surge affected how players imagined these characters beyond their minimal game dialogue. This multimedia synergy amplified both the anime and games, creating a cultural phenomenon larger than either could have achieved alone. Pokemon Red's save system uses battery backed SRAM, meaning the save file depends on a battery inside the cartridge. These batteries eventually die, typically after 15 to 20 years, causing save files to corrupt. This built in obsolescence means original cartridges often can't maintain saves without battery replacement. The 3DS Virtual Console re releases preserved save data digitally, solving this problem. However, the potential loss of save files adds a bittersweet element to physical cartridge preservation. The games that meant so much to players can lose their save data, erasing teams and accomplishments built over years. This fragility makes preserved save files precious artifacts of gaming history. The connection between the player character's journey and Satoshi Tajiri's childhood experiences gives Pokemon Red emotional resonance beyond its game mechanics. Tajiri collected insects as a child, spending days searching fields and forests for rare specimens. As Tokyo urbanized, these natural spaces disappeared, and with them, the opportunity for children to experience that connection with nature. Pokemon Red recreates that collection and discovery experience in digital form, allowing children worldwide to experience a version of Tajiri's childhood. This personal connection between creator and creation shines through in every aspect of the game's design, from the catching mechanics to the emphasis on collection and trading. The limited inventory space forces players to make decisions about which items to carry. You can only hold 20 different item types at once, requiring careful management during long exploration sessions. Running out of healing items far from a Pokemon Center creates tension. Deciding whether to keep or toss TMs you might use later adds strategy. The item storage system in Pokemon Centers alleviates this somewhat, but accessing stored items requires returning to town. These limitations create gameplay rather than just frustrating players, encouraging planning and resource management. Professor Oak's role as both mentor and researcher frames the player's journey. He provides your first Pokemon, gives you the Pokedex, and offers advice throughout the game. Yet his incomplete Pokedex suggests he's not as knowledgeable as he seems. His reliance on children to complete his research raises questions about his competence. The unused battle data suggests a more complex relationship was planned, where Oak tests whether you're truly worthy of the champion title. Whether through time constraints or design changes, this content was cut, leaving Oak as a purely supportive character rather than a final challenge. The rival character represents a dark mirror of the player. He chooses the starter Pokemon strong against yours, always staying one step ahead. His team is always slightly higher level than you expect. He becomes champion before you, forcing you to defeat him to claim the title. Yet his arrogance and dismissive attitude make defeating him satisfying rather than sad. His character arc from confident rival to defeated champion creates a narrative arc the player actively participates in. Unlike modern Pokemon games, where rivals are friendly, Red's rival is genuinely antagonistic, making victory over him emotionally satisfying. The bicycle voucher system creates an interesting roadblock. Bicycles cost 1 million Pokemon dollars, impossibly expensive through normal play. The voucher, obtained by saving Bill, provides a bicycle for free. This forces players through specific story beats before gaining faster travel. The bicycle doubles movement speed, making exploration much faster once obtained. This gate creates a natural difficulty curve where early exploration is slow and deliberate, while later exploration becomes quick and efficient. The sense of progression from walking everywhere to flying between towns represents your growth from beginning trainer to champion level master. The fame system, or lack thereof, in Pokemon Red creates interesting implications. Even after becoming champion, nobody recognizes you. NPCs repeat the same dialogue, unaware of your accomplishments. This suggests either the game's technical limitations or a deliberate choice to keep the focus on personal achievement rather than external recognition. Your team knows what you've accomplished. Your Pokédex represents your dedication. These personal markers of success matter more than NPC recognition. This contrasts with later games where NPCs acknowledge your champion status, creating different relationships between player achievement and world state. The simplicity of Pokemon Red's graphics forces players' imaginations to fill gaps. Brock isn't topless, he's wearing a preen vest, but the limited color palette makes it ambiguous. Misty's design is clear in official art, but abstract in game sprites. This abstraction lets players project their own interpretations onto characters and locations. Lavender Town feels creepy, partially because the simple graphics leave room for imagination to create horror. This design philosophy, whether intentional or necessary, creates more memorable imagery than realistic graphics often achieve. Players remember their interpretation of Kanto, not the pixels actually displayed. As we settle deeper into this exploration of Pokemon Red, it's worth noting how these games taught an entire generation about collecting, trading, strategy, and perseverance. The values embedded in the gameplay, treating Pokemon well, helping others, working hard to improve, created positive messages alongside entertainment. Pokemon Red wasn't just a game, it was an introduction to gaming for millions of children worldwide. The lessons learned from type advantages and team building transferred to real world pattern recognition and problem solving. This educational value, subtle and unintentional though it may have been, represents part of the game's lasting impact. The various Pokemon cries, all created from the same 37 base sounds, demonstrate impressive audio design within limitations. Pitch is shifting, playback speed modification, and layering created the illusion of 151 unique cries. Some Pokemon, like Charizard and Rhyhorn, share identical cries, while others, like Drowsy, Hypno, and Jinx, have nearly identical sounds with minimal variation. This demonstrates how creative use of limited resources can achieve impressive results. Modern games have unique audio files for every sound, but Pokemon Red's constrained approach created a consistent audio aesthetic that unified the experience. The absence of abilities, held items, and other features from later generations makes Pokemon Red's battle system more straightforward, but not necessarily simpler. Without these additional systems, battles focus purely on stats, types, moves, and strategy. This creates a different kind of depth where fundamentals matter more than gimmicks. While later games expanded strategic options significantly, Pokemon Red's focused design has its own elegance. Understanding the core system deeply creates mastery, and that mastery feels earned because it's not obscured by excessive complexity. The water routes, requiring Surf to navigate, open up huge areas of Kanto for exploration. The Seafoam Islands, power plant, and routes connecting Cinnabar Island to Fuchsia City all become accessible once you receive HM03. These water areas tend to feature similar Pokemon encounters, Tentacool being notoriously common, but they create a sense of expanded world space. Swimming beneath the sky, encountering trainers floating on the water, these moments build Kanto's geography in players' minds. The ocean connecting Kanto's islands becomes a character itself, vast and mysterious. The item finder, obtained from Professor Oak's aid on Route 11 after catching 30 Pokemon, reveals hidden items scattered throughout Kanto. Invisible items lie waiting in specific tiles, sometimes containing valuable TMs or rare evolution stones. The item finder beeps when standing next to a hidden item, requiring players to search surrounding tiles. This treasure hunting minigame rewards thorough exploration, with some hidden items in obvious locations, while others hide in unexpected spots. The nugget mentioned earlier, unobtainable near the Safari Zone entrance, triggers the item finder despite being off map, a programming artifact that confused players for years. The Name Raider in Lavender Town lets players change nicknames of Pokemon they've caught. This solves the problem of inappropriate or regretted nicknames, giving players a second chance. However, traded Pokemon cannot be renamed, maintaining the identity given by their original trainer. This creates interesting implications for traded Pokemon, retaining their previous owner's naming choice. Some players meticulously nickname all their Pokemon, creating personal connections. Others leave them with default names, treating them more like tools than companions. Both approaches are valid, and the option to choose reflects Pokemon Red's player first design philosophy. The move deleter doesn't exist in Pokemon Red, creating a permanent problem. If you teach a Pokemon an HM move and later want to remove it, you can't. The Pokemon is stuck with that move forever unless you replace it with another move via TM or level up. Since HMs can't be deleted by normal means, some Pokemon become permanently burdened with moves like Cut or Flash. This creates strategic considerations about which Pokemon should learn HMs, encouraging players to designate specific team members for utility moves. Later games added move deleters to fix this issue, but Red forces players to live with their decisions. Certain trainers in Pokemon Red stand out as significantly harder than expected. The final rival fight on Route 22 before Victory Road can devastate unprepared players. His team is well rounded and high leveled, serving as a test before the Elite Four. The cool trainer couple on Route 21 use well coordinated teams. Lorelei's Lapras often surprises players with its bulk and diverse move pool. These difficulty spikes punish complacency, requiring adaptation and strategy. Yet the game never becomes unfairly difficult. Proper preparation, level grinding, and type advantages let any player succeed eventually. This balanced difficulty curve teaches players to improve without punishing them for learning. Pokemon's color schemes in Red version follow the Game Boy's limitations. On the original Gray Game Boy, everything appears in shades of gray. On Game Boy Color and later systems, the game uses predetermined color palettes. Red version features green sprites on red backgrounds when played on color systems. These color choices were selected by the development team, not generated automatically. Some Pokemon colors differ from their official art colors due to palette limitations. Growlithe appears purple instead of orange. Arbok appears brown instead of purple. These differences create unique memories for players who saw Pokemon in-game before seeing official colored artwork. The physical damage types and special damage types are determined by type rather than individual moves in Generation 1. Fire, water, grass, electric, psychic, ice, and dragon moves are special. Normal, fighting, flying, ground, rock, bug, ghost, and poison moves are physical. This system means some Pokemon can't effectively use their own type. Onix has high physical defense, but its ground and rock moves use physical attack, which it lacks. Later generations split moves into physical and special independent of type, fixing these inconsistencies. But in Pokemon Red, understanding which types are physical versus special is crucial for effective team building. The currency system in Pokemon Red uses Pokemon dollars, represented by a yen symbol in Japanese versions and a Poke symbol internationally. Defeating trainers and selling items generates income. Certain items, like nuggets, exist purely to be sold for money. The amulet coin, held by your active Pokemon, doubles prize money from trainer battles. Combined with rematches against trainers near Nugget Bridge using Viz Seeker in later games, this creates effective money grinding strategies. However, Red version has no Viz Seeker, so money comes primarily from progressing through the game and the Elite Four repeatedly. The Silph-Combil building represents corporate power in the Pokemon world. This massive company produces Pokeballs and other Pokemon technology, making them immensely influential. Team Rocket's takeover of Sylph Conus threatens Kanto's entire Pokemon infrastructure. The Master Ball, Sylph Cobra's ultimate product, demonstrates their technological advancement. Yet for all their power, Sylph Coman is helpless against Team Rocket until a 10-year-old trainer saves them. This creates interesting implications about corporate versus personal power in Pokemon's world. Technology matters less than the bond between trainer and Pokemon, a recurring theme throughout the series. The three trade evolutions in Pokemon Red, Haunter to Gengar, Kadabra to Alakazam, and Machoke to Machamp require another player's cooperation. This social requirement for completion frustrated solo players, but reinforced the game's community focus. Gengar becomes a powerful ghost type with high special attack. Alakazam reaches incredible psychic power with the highest special stat in the game. Machamp gains massive physical attack with 4 powerful arms. These evolutions reward players who engage with the trading mechanics, creating incentive for social play beyond simple version exclusive collection. The badge system gates progression in subtle ways beyond obvious obstacles. Without certain badges, Pokemon above specific levels won't obey you if they're traded from another player. The Boulder badge ensures obedience up to level 10. The Cascade badge extends this to level 30. This prevents players from receiving level 100 Pokemon from friends and steamrolling the game. The obedience system ensures that progression through gyms remains necessary, maintaining challenge even when trading is accessible. This thoughtful design prevents exploits while still allowing trading's benefits. Weather effects don't exist in Pokemon Red's battle system, unlike in later generations. Rain doesn't boost water moves or lower fire move power. Sandstorm doesn't damage non-rock, ground, or steel types. This simpler system focuses on immediate, turn-by-turn strategy rather than long-term field effects. While later games added significant depth through weather, abilities, and held items, Pokemon Red's streamlined approach has charm. Every action and reaction is direct and observable, making it easier to understand cause and effect. This clarity helps new players learn systems without overwhelming complexity. The lore implications of certain Pokedex entries raise fascinating questions. Alakazam remembers everything that happens to it, suggesting perfect memory. Gengar hides in shadows to drain warmth from victims. Hypno has kidnapped children in the past. These dark undertones contrast with the game's generally light-hearted tone. The Pokédex reads like it was written by an excited child exaggerating facts, which makes sense given that a 10-year-old protagonist collects the information. This unreliable narrator framework explains the impossible statistics and bizarre claims throughout Pokédex entries. The individual Pokemon available in Red version each have their own unique characteristics worth exploring. Venusaur, the final evolution of Bulbasaur, combines grass and poison typing with excellent special defense. Its signature move, Solar Beam, requires a charging turn but deals massive damage, making it devastating when used strategically. The flower on its back supposedly releases pollen that calms aggressive Pokemon, an interesting detail that never manifests in gameplay but adds personality to the species. Venusaur's dual typing gives it 8 resistances, but also 4 weaknesses, creating a balanced defensive profile that rewards smart switching. Charizard's fire and flying combination makes it one of the few fire types that can learn fly naturally, solving 2 HM requirements with a single team member. Its design, based on European dragons rather than Asian dragons like Dragonite, gives it a distinct visual identity. The flames from its tail supposedly indicate its life force, with the Pokedex claiming that if the flame goes out, Charizard dies. This creates dramatic stakes that never actually affect gameplay, since Pokemon can't permanently die in battle. Charizard's high special attack and decent speed make it a powerful sweeper in the late game, justifying the challenging early game that comes with choosing Charmander. Blastoise, Squirtle's final form, sports massive water cannons on its shell capable of piercing steel. The Pokedex claims these cannons can blast at targets over 160 feet away with enough force to punch holes in steel. In reality, Blastoise's water moves work identically to other water types versions, but the flavor text creates an image of overwhelming power. Blastoise's high defense makes it an excellent tank, able to withstand physical attacks while retaliating with water and ice moves. Its typing gives it fewer weaknesses than the other starters, making it the most forgiving choice for inexperienced players. The evolutions available in Red version showcase the evolution stone system's flexibility. Eevee, obtained from a house in Celadon City, can evolve into 3 different forms depending on which stone you use. Vaporeon results from using a water stone, gaining massive HP and special stats that make it one of the bulkiest special tanks in the game. Its access to water moves combined with its normal type. Move Pool creates versatile coverage. Jolteon comes from a Thunderstone, becoming the fastest electric type in the game with a speed stat of 130. This speed ensures it attacks first in most matchups, letting it potentially eliminate threats before they act. Flareon uses a Firestone, gaining the highest attack stat of all. Evolutions, but suffering from poor move pool since physical fire moves don't exist in Generation 1. The route design in Pokémon Red creates a sense of geographical coherence despite the limited hardware. Route 1 connects Pallet Town to Viridian City, introducing players to wild Pokémon through weak encounters like Pidgey and Rattata. Route 2 runs north from Viridian to Pewter City, with Viridian Forest branching off to the east. This forest contains bug catchers, training with Weedle, Caterpie, and Metapod, providing easy experience for new players while teaching type advantages. Route 3 connects Pewter City to Route 4, featuring trainers with increasingly diverse teams. The path through Montmoon interrupts the route, creating a dungeon experience between the outdoor areas. Montmoon itself deserves attention as the first major dungeon. Multiple floors connected by ladders create a maze-like structure. Team Rocket members appear here, establishing them as recurring antagonists. Fossils of extinct Pokémon The helix fossil and dome fossil can be found here, though you can only take one. These fossils can later be revived at Cinnabar Island's laboratory into Omanite or Kabuto, respectively. The choice between fossils creates a sense of consequence, as you can't obtain both without trading. Moonstones, rare evolution items, hide in craters throughout the cave, encouraging thorough exploration. The wild Zubat encounters become infamous for their frequency, teaching players about repels and encounter rates. Routes 4 through 8 connect Cerulean City to Saffron City, passing through several towns and featuring various terrain types. Route 5 requires going through an underground path to reach Route 6, introducing the concept of alternate routes. Route 7 and 8 flank Saffron City, with Route 8 leading to Lavender Town. These routes feature trainers using progressively stronger Pokémon, scaling difficulty naturally as players advance. The placement of Pokémon centers ensures players never travel too far without healing opportunities, balancing exploration with convenience. The rock tunnel between routes 9 and 10 creates another mandatory dungeon experience. Unlike Mant Moon, Rock Tunnel is completely dark unless you use HM05 Flash to illuminate it. Players can navigate without Flash, but it's significantly more difficult, adding to the challenge. Hikers and picnickers throughout the tunnel use rock and ground types, punishing players who didn't prepare with water or grass Pokémon. The tunnel's winding paths and multiple levels create confusion, especially when navigating in darkness. Exiting Rock Tunnel brings you to Lavender Town, a reward for persevering through the dark maze. Routes 12 through 15 showcase Pokémon Red's environmental variety. Route 12 runs along the coast, requiring passage through a guardhouse with a sleeping Snorlax blocking the way. This creates a temporary barrier that you'll return to later with the Poke Flute. Route 13 continues south along the beach, with trainers specializing in water Pokémon befitting the seaside location. Routes 14 and 15 loop back west toward Fuchsia City, completing a circuit that encourages exploration. The route design creates a sense of geographical logic, with paths connecting in ways that make Kanto feel like a real place rather than a series of disconnected levels. The cycling road connecting Fuskia City back towards Cerulean City provides a fast travel option once you've made the full circuit. This elevated road requires a bicycle to access, providing a reward for completing the earlier game sections. The downhill route features trainers positioned to catch speeding players off guard. You can't use items or access the menu while on the cycling road, creating unique tension as you zoom past trainers. Reaching the bottom deposits you near Celadon City, completing a circuit of Kanto's western half. This loop design encourages backtracking to explore areas you passed earlier with new abilities and Pokemon. Victory Road, the final dungeon before the Elite Four, tests everything you've learned. Multiple floors connected by strength puzzles require pushing boulders onto switches to open paths. Strong trainers with fully evolved Pokemon punish weak teams. Moltres roosts in the deepest chamber, providing a super boss encounter before the actual finale. The cave's winding paths and dead ends create a final navigation challenge. Running out of items here means backtracking through the entire cave to heal, creating real consequences for poor preparation. Victory Road's gauntlet ensures only properly prepared trainers reach the Elite Four. The version exclusive Pokemon available in Red create interesting strategic considerations. Arcanine, Growlithe's evolution, combines high attack and speed with fire typing, making it a powerful physical sweeper before the generation's mechanics make that term relevant. Its fire and normal type move pool provides good coverage, and its intimidate ability in later generations would make it even more valuable, though abilities don't exist in Red. Scyther, the Mantis Pokemon, boasts incredible speed and attack, but suffers from bug and flying dual typing that provides many weaknesses. Its signature move, Slash, has a high critical hit rate that synergizes with its high speed, potentially dealing massive damage consistently. Electabuzz stands as Red's exclusive electric type option besides the Pikachu line. Its design, based on a yokai called Raiju that takes the form of lightning, gives it distinctive spiky fur and antennae. Electabuzz's balanced stats make it versatile, capable of both dealing and taking hits. Its access to Thunder Punch, despite the move being special rather than physical in Generation 1, provides powerful electric type damage. The rivalry between Electabuzz and Magmar, Red and Blue's respective exclusives, creates a fun parallel to the version split itself. Players often debate which is better, with Electabuzz generally considered slightly superior due to better typing and speed. The fossil Pokemon, while not version exclusive, deserve examination for their unique characteristics. Omanite and Omastar represent spiral shelled creatures extinct for millions of years. Their rock and water typing creates an unusual combination with 4 weaknesses but several useful resistances. Omastar's high special defense makes it an excellent special wall capable of using water and ice moves effectively. The memes surrounding Lord Helix and the Twitch Plays Pokemon phenomenon brought renewed attention to these ancient creatures decades after Red's release. Kabuto and Kabutops, the alternative fossil choice, also combine like and water typing, but with a more offensive stat distribution. Kabutops' design, based on horseshoe crabs, gives it sharp scythes and high attack, though the physical and special split means its best moves use special attack instead. Aerodactyl, the prehistoric flying reptile, revived from Old Amber found in Pewter Museum's back door, represents the third fossil Pokemon option. Unlike the other fossils, you don't choose between Aerodactyl and something else. You obtain Old Amber through a secret path, adding mystery to its acquisition. Aerodactyl's rock and flying typing, combined with base speed of 130, makes it the fastest rock type in Generation 1. Its design draws from pterodactyls and dragons, creating a fierce prehistoric predator. In battle, Aerodactyl's speed lets it strike first against most opponents, though its move pool and the generation's mechanics limit its effectiveness compared to later games where it becomes a genuine threat. The legendary birds deserve deeper exploration for their impact on gameplay and lore. Articuno, found in the Seafoam Islands, embodies ice and winter with its elegant design. The Seafoam Islands dungeon requires careful strength puzzle solving, pushing boulders to block rapid currents before you can access Articuno's chamber. This adds challenge beyond simply finding it. Articuno's ice and flying typing creates interesting dynamics, as ice provides important offensive coverage, but creates four weaknesses defensively. Its high special stat makes it an effective special tank, while its blizzard and ice beam devastate dragon and grass types. The Seafoam Islands puzzle design teaches players about environmental interaction, foreshadowing later games' more complex dungeon mechanics. Zapdos at the power plant combines electric and flying typing, creating unique resistances and weaknesses. Electric types resist electric attacks, making Zapdos difficult to defeat with other electric Pokémon. Its Drill Peck provides flying type coverage, while Thunder and Thunderbolt deliver powerful special attacks. The power plant location creates atmospheric tension, with the building's industrial design contrasting natural locations elsewhere in Kanto. Zapdos appears alone in an empty chamber, waiting silently for challengers. Its design, combining bird and mythological Thunderbird elements, makes it immediately recognizable as something special. Of the three birds, Zapdos typically sees the most competitive use due to its excellent typing and reliable electric attacks. Moltres' placement in Victory Road makes it the hardest legendary bird to reach. By the time you access Victory Road, you're preparing for the Elite Four, making Moltres feel like a bonus rather than a crucial team member. Its fire and flying typing creates quadruple weakness to rock type moves, making it vulnerable in ways the other birds aren't. Despite this, Moltres' high special attack makes it hit incredibly hard with fire, blast, and flamethrower. Its design incorporates Phoenix mythology, with flames coating its body and tail feathers trailing fire. The challenge of catching Moltres when it knows Fire Spin, a move that traps and damages you over multiple turns, adds difficulty to an already tough encounter. The typing chart in Pokémon Red contains several quirks that would be adjusted in later generations. Psychic types dominated the metagame, partially due to a bug that made them immune to ghost type moves instead of weak to them. The only ghost types, the Ghastly line, are also poison type, making them weak to psychic attacks despite ghost moves theoretically being super effective. Bug types, which should counter psychic types, have such poor stats and move options that they can't capitalize on type advantage. Dragon types only include the Dratini line, and the only dragon type move, Dragon Rage, deals fixed damage instead of benefiting from type advantages. These balance issues wouldn't be fixed until Generation 2, but they define Generation 1's competitive landscape. The poison status condition deserves analysis for its strategic implications. Regular poison deals damage each turn, slowly weakening opponents. Toxic, taught by TM06 from Koga's gym, causes poison that increases in damage each turn, becoming devastating over time. Poison types and steel types, though steel doesn't exist in red, are immune to poison. Poisoning opponent Pokemon creates passive pressure, forcing them to heal or switch while taking incremental damage. The antidote item cures poison, but using it wastes a turn in battle. Pokemon centers cure poison automatically when healing, ensuring it never becomes the permanent problem between battles. Paralysis fundamentally changes battle dynamics by reducing speed to 1/4 of normal and creating a 25% chance to be fully paralyzed each turn. Electric type moves commonly cause paralysis, making electric types valuable for their ability to cripple fast opponents. Thunder Wave, learned by many electric Pokemon, causes paralysis with near perfect accuracy, making it one of the best support moves in the game. Body Slam, a powerful normal type move, has a 30% chance to paralyze, giving it value beyond just damage. Paralysis persists after battle unless cured, making Paralyze Heal items valuable during long exploration sessions. Sleep represents perhaps the most powerful status condition in Red version. Sleeping Pokemon can't act at all until they wake up, which takes 1 to 7 turns randomly. Hypnosis, sleep powder, and sing all cause sleep with varying accuracy. Once asleep, there's no way to wake up faster. You simply wait. Sleep effectively removes a Pokemon from battle for multiple turns, making it devastating in important fights. The sleep clause in competitive battling, which limits players to putting one Uppud asleep at a time, exists specifically because sleep is so powerful. In-game knows such restriction exists, allowing players to abuse sleep's strength against computer opponents. Freeze functions similarly to sleep, but with a crucial difference. Frozen Pokemon never thaw on their own. Only fire-type moves can thaw frozen Pokemon, and since frozen Pokemon can't act, they can't use their own fire moves to thaw themselves. This makes freeze potentially permanent, removing Pokemon from battle entirely unless you switch them out and use a healing item. Ice Beam and Blizzard both have 10% chances to freeze, making powerful ice-type moves even more dangerous. The AI doesn't account for permanent freeze correctly, sometimes leaving frozen Pokemon in battle indefinitely. This makes freeze the most devastating status, but also the least common. Burn halves the affected Pokemon's attack stat in addition to dealing damage each turn. This makes Burn particularly effective against physical attackers, crippling their damage output. Fire-type moves can cause burn, with Fire Blast having a 30% chance and Flamethrower having a 10% chance. Fire types are immune to burn, giving them additional utility beyond their offensive capabilities. Burn persists between battles like poison and paralysis, requiring burn heal items to cure outside of Pokemon centers. The attack reduction makes burn more strategically valuable than regular poison, despite dealing identical incremental damage, as it provides both offensive and defensive benefits. Confusion differs from status conditions because it's not technically a status, meaning Pokemon can be both confused and burned or confused and paralyzed simultaneously. Confused Pokemon have a 50% chance each turn to hit themselves instead of executing their intended move. The self inflicted damage uses the Pokemon's attack stat against its defense stat, meaning high attack Pokemon hurt themselves more. Confusion lasts 1 to 4 turns, after which it ends automatically. Several moves cause confusion, including Supersonic, Confuse Ray, and Psybeam. The unreliability makes confusions less powerful than other status effects, but the potential for opponents to defeat themselves creates memorable moments. The experience growth rates vary between Pokemon species, affecting how quickly they reach level 100. Fast growth. Pokemon require only 800,000 total experience, making them quick to train, but often having lower base stats to compensate. Medium fast growth requires 1 million experience, serving as the default rate. Medium slow growth needs 1,064,000 experience, making training slightly longer. Slow growth. Pokemon require 1,250,000 total experience, making them time intensive to maximize. These different rates create strategic considerations, as faster growing Pokemon provide immediate power, while slower growing ones require patience for their superior in game stats. The party system limits U to 6 active Pokemon, forcing choices about team composition. This limit exists partially due to technical constraints, but also serves game design purposes. 6 Pokemon feels manageable without being restrictive, allowing diverse teams while preventing overwhelming complexity. The decision to limit move, count to 4 per Pokemon compounds this strategic depth, as you must choose which moves each Pokemon carries. These limitations create the strategic core of Pokemon, forcing meaningful decisions rather than allowing players to bring everything they might need. The switch mechanic allows changing active Pokemon at the start of each turn before moves are executed. This creates prediction based gameplay where anticipating opponent moves and switching to resist them becomes crucial. Switching costs your turn, meaning you can't attack while switching, but prevents damage you would have taken. The AI uses predictable switching patterns, making it easy to exploit, but human opponents create mind games around switching. This back and forth of prediction and counter prediction forms the basis of competitive Pokemon battling, with skilled players winning through superior switching rather than just having stronger Pokemon. The TM system introduces permanent choices about which Pokemon learn which moves. Since TMs break after one use, you must carefully consider who benefits most from each move. TMs like Thunderbolt, Ice Beam, and Earthquake see heavy use because they're powerful moves many Pokemon can learn. Other TMs like Bide or Rage have limited utility, making the decision less important. Some TMs have unique moves not learned naturally, making them mandatory for certain strategies. This scarcity creates planning requirements, as wasting a valuable TM on a Pokemon you later box feels disappointing. Later games made TMs reusable, but Red's single use system forces more consideration. The money you accumulate through defeating trainers and selling items funds purchases at Pokemarts and department stores. Pokeballs, potions, and other consumables require constant replenishment. More expensive items like hyper potions, full restores, and ultra balls become accessible as you progress and defeat wealthier trainers. The Celadon department store offers the widest selection, including TMs, evolution stones, and stat boosting items. The exchange corner lets you trade coins won from slot machines for Pokemon and TMs, though earning enough coins for the valuable prizes requires either extensive gambling or directly purchasing coins. This economic system creates resource management challenges, as spending money carelessly can leave you under equipped for difficult battles. The daycare system, located on Route 5, allows depositing a Pokemon that gains levels automatically based on steps walked. Each step equals one experience point, making it extremely slow compared to battling. The daycare costs money based on how many levels the Pokemon gained, making extensive use expensive. Pokemon in daycare don't learn new moves, they simply gain stats, making it useful for leveling Pokemon you don't want to use in battle. The daycare would gain breeding functionality in Generation 2, but in Red it serves only as a training tool. Most players find battling more efficient, making the daycare largely unused despite its availability. The fishing mechanics provide a mini game within the larger game. When you use a fishing rod, you wait for a bite, then must press the button within a timing window to hook the Pokemon. Successfully hooking it initiates a battle. Different rods catch different Pokemon, with better rods accessing rarer species. Water types obtained through fishing differ from those encountered via surfing, encouraging players to try both methods. The timing requirement adds a small skill element, though it's lenient enough that missing bites rarely happens. Fishing serves primarily as an alternative way to encounter water Pokemon rather than a major gameplay system, but it adds variety to Pokemon acquisition methods. The Pokemon Mansion on Cinnabar Island creates a creepy, abandoned building atmosphere. This decrepit research facility contains journal entries documenting Mewtwo's creation and escape. The building's layout includes locked doors requiring switches scattered throughout multiple floors. Strong fire and poison type. Pokemon inhabit the mansion, making it challenging for unprepared trainers. The secret key, necessary to access Cinnabar's gym, hides in the mansion's basement, forcing exploration of this dangerous location. The environmental storytelling through journal entries provides narrative depth unusual for Pokemon Red's mostly show don't tell approach. Cinnabar Island's gym features a quiz based progression system. Before battling trainers, you must answer questions about Pokemon. Wrong answers force battles, while correct answers let you proceed directly. The questions test knowledge gained through playing the game, rewarding attentive players with faster progression. Blaine, the gym leader, waits in the back room with his fire type team. This intellectual challenge creates variety from the standard trainer gauntlet approach used by, used by most gyms. Players who paid attention to Pokedex entries and NPC dialogue can bypass most battles, though many players intentionally answer wrong for the experience points. The copyright year confusion has led to speculation. The games display copyright 1995, despite releasing February 27, 1996. This discrepancy exists because development completed in October 1995, and the copyright date reflects the completion rather than release. The delay between completion and release was caused by merchandise preparation, as Nintendo wanted cards, toys, and other products ready simultaneously. This coordinated launch required months of manufacturing and distribution preparation. The original release date of December 21, 1995 was pushed back, but the copyright year was never updated, creating the discrepancy that appears in every subsequent Pokemon game as part of the standard copyright notice. The special stat, combining both offensive and defensive properties, creates interesting scenarios where Pokemon excel at both or neither. Chansey has massive special stat, making it hit hard with special attacks despite being designed as a defensive Pokemon. Alakazam's incredible special stat makes it both a powerful attacker and resistant to special moves. Conversely, Pokemon with low special like Onix struggle both offensively and defensively against special moves. This system would be split in Generation 2, separating special attack from special defense and allowing Pokemon to specialize in one without the other. This change fundamentally rebalanced many Pokemon, with some benefiting greatly, while others became less effective. The Hall of Fame room serves as the game's ending sequence. After defeating the champion, Professor Oak arrives to record your team in the Hall of Fame. Each Pokemon's sprite, name, level, and Pokedex number appears on screen with fanfare music playing. This ceremony celebrates your achievement, immortalizing the team that helped you reach champion status. The Hall of Fame data saves to your cartridge, letting you view past winning teams. This creates a permanent record of your journey, though it gets corrupted if you perform the missing no glitch. The ceremony itself is simple but effective, providing closure to the main quest. Pokemon Red's credits sequence lists the development team and includes "Thank you for playing" in multiple languages. This personal touch acknowledges the player's time investment and expresses gratitude for experiencing the developer's creation. In an era before extensive in game content and post game stories, this simple thanks provided closure. The credits roll with the Hall of Fame fanfare playing, creating a bittersweet moment. Your journey is complete, yet the world of Kanto remains, waiting to be explored further at your leisure. If you enjoyed this gentle journey through Pokemon Red's fascinating details and hidden secrets, I hope you'll consider liking this video. And for more peaceful explorations through gaming history, you can find the Pokemon to Sleep To playlist right there on the left side of the end card. There are hours of calm discoveries waiting, perfect for quiet evenings when you want to learn something new while winding down. Thank you for joining me tonight in exploring the foundations of a franchise that's touched millions of lives across nearly 3 decades. Whether you played Pokemon Red when it first released or discovered it years later, These games represent a special moment in gaming history that continues inspiring developers and delighting players. Sleep well and sweet dreams of Kanto